when people ask me, why do you do what you do? Because it's almost 40 years I've been doing this work after I was rescued. And I said, because I cannot ever see myself giving a second chance and just going on with life and pretend that nothing happened. This is an honor for the people, my friends, that could not make it, and for the hope of all the thousands and thousands of people in movement. People's moving all around the world.
Hello and welcome. As always, I'm Abbie. This is Stories Lived, Stories Told. And today, I invite you to join me in conversation with Dora Rodriguez as we take a communication perspective on what it looks like to humanize the stories we tell around immigration. To take a communication perspective is to consider what we're making and how we're making it through our communication practices. This means we look closely at patterns, context, stories, and relationships, and that we use curiosity, mindfulness, collaboration, and dialogue to create better social worlds. Whether the topic of today's conversation is familiar to you or not, the hope is that using a communication perspective will reveal new ways of seeing and being. At the top of the episode, you heard our conversation partner today, Dora Rodriguez. Dora is an immigrant rights advocate and has been really since she herself immigrated to the United States from El Salvador in 1980. This conversation with Dora is the beginning of our series on migration for this month. And I'll share that I originally was thinking of this series as the immigration series. But after having some of these conversations, my perspective shifted, and I wanted to frame this series more broadly. Obviously, the difference between migration and immigration is small letters-wise, but to me, their connotation or the meaning that we attach to them feels very different. I would invite you to consider what you think or feel when you hear the words immigration versus migration. For me, and I imagine for many in the U.S., immigration is a really charged word. In the context of the United States, it is deeply politicized, and immigration has historically been handled in a really inhumane way. And it's a topic that's really polarizing. But when I hear the word migration, to me, at least, there feels to be less political baggage to the word, and perhaps that's different for you. The way I'm using the word in the context of this series is to say that in these conversations I've been having with those who have migrated and or support those who migrate, my perspective has expanded to include the history of migration as something that people have always done. In some ways, it's the most natural thing in the world for people to move. I recognize that you'll probably relate to this language differently, so again, I invite you to reflect on this for yourself. But I just wanted to share as we start the meaning that I'm attaching to this series, and specifically the language we're using. Today's conversation is really great for considering how the telling and hearing of stories works to humanize, in this case, immigration and those who immigrate. So with all of this in mind, I'm thrilled to share this conversation and start off this series with Dora. Hi, Dora. Thanks so much for joining me for this conversation. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you today.
Hello, how you doing, Abbie? Me too. I'm excited to share our stories in the southern border. And
Yes.
I am in the area of Tucson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have about 5 ports of entry. So You can see that we are busy around here assisting in a humanitarian aid.
Yeah. To start us off, can you share a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing with Humane Borders?
Yes, I have been volunteer with Human Borders for quite some time, but the past year I became the chairwoman, and I carry on with so much grace and honor and responsibility. Because it is a really big organization that has been around in Tucson for 23 years, going to 24 now. And they are incredible. They provide, really life-saving water in our desert areas. And, my past years, my past experience, it was incredible. I learned so much from them. I'm no longer the chairwoman. Started in January. We got a new person. Her name is Lori Cantillo, who is incredible too, has a great heart and knowledge of how to navigate, this amazing organization. So, my experience has been with not only with Humane Borders, but many other organizations, as well with my own organization. So we have a different hat.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's a lot of need around our area in different capacities. So, Humane Borders is well known, like I was saying, to have these water tanks, water stations around the area of Arizona. And that is really to prevent more death. Our map, if people would like to be informed about the death of people seeking asylum and seeking a better life in our deserts, it's heartbreaking. I mean, we're talking close to 5,000 people within the last 20 years that Humane Borders started, creating this data in our area. So, those are numbers that come from the medical examiner, but they're also numbers from Border Patrol data and search and rescue groups. And this is a large number of deaths in this beautiful desert. Even though we do have those water tanks, we have about close to 50 around in the area of Arizona. Most is close to Oregon Pipe, which is a national park, and the area of Bangor, which is another national park, in different areas in southern Arizona. Even with that, the help people, if they can find it and they are in the temperatures, they reach 110, 115 sometimes. And within the first day that you run out of water, you are so compromised already. And, as I've always said during my year of being a director, I've always said, well, this really is a life-saving, not only for people seeking a better life or running from violence, but for anybody, any one of us that is hiking. Our deserts are well known for beautiful paths to hike and mountains, and people from other states come and do that. But this desert, especially in the summer, well, winters can be brutal too. It's very, very cold in our desert. So I always said, if you see a blue water tank and a beautiful blue flag flying out there, grab that water because it's a life-saving. We Humane Borders gets a grant with the county, with Pima County, every other year, of $30,000 to maintain this. And then the rest of the donations come from private donors who care about this issue, The tragedy is so much in our deserts that we have records of people dying a couple steps from our water tanks.
Wow.
That they make it. So that is how cruel it can be.
Yeah, well, I was so interested and amazed to hear about the work that Humane Borders does, and the kind of mission statement, at least that I read on the website, being to humanize the border environment.
Right.
And I think that's such an important shift.
Right.
To have our shared humanity be the biggest motivator.
Right.
In our interaction with immigration and the situation at the southern border in the United States. And I think it changes things if people interact from a place of valuing that shared humanity above anything else.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and this is part of each of us in here, they will work and volunteer, because most of us are volunteers in every capacity. That is our mission, to put a face to the numbers, to the stories, to the raw narrative, who we are. I say we because I am a migrant myself, and I cannot imagine just going through life and calling people just total different names and putting us in this box that is just this box of who people really, a lot of people nowadays think that we are. And I said, well, if you start looking as migrants coming to a country where it's incredible the belief that we have in the prospects of this country for our lives. And I over and over, I hear from people who I encounter as presenting and asking for asylum, that their dream is to give their children a better life, that they remove their children from violence. And so then, to me, is now that I am a citizen, and I have been a citizen for almost 30 years now, to me is precious, because I think, wow, you're coming in such a horror journey from thousands and thousands of miles away sometimes. In all you have, chose to reach the dream and safety. And for many of us in this country, there is no such a thing of American dream. It's hard. It's hard. Life is hard too. And but for me to see that story from them, I encountered a mother a couple of weeks ago at the border wall, all the way from Africa. And the little girl was 5, and she says, I'm going to go to Disneyland. I'm sure she has no clue what that is, but I am sure the mother had been telling her to help her to go through that journey, something happy, a happy place. So this is a reality of what we see in our borders and what we see in the shelters, what we see with people that they are doing the right thing, what people want. I hear that all the time. Well, why they don't come the right way? Well, I'll tell you, they are presenting themselves. They are not running away from the law. They're asking for protection. So they're exercising their human right in the law of asylum law. It was given to this country. It was created in this country in the 1980s, and it's have to be practiced at full force.
Yeah. Would you like to share about some of the other work that you do with other organizations you're involved with?
Yes, I am also a volunteer with the Tucson Samaritans. And the Tucson Samaritans have also been here for many, many years, 23 years too. And these organizations are pretty much branch out from the sanctuary movement. And the mission of the Samaritans is, again, mitigate the death in the desert by walking those trails every day, leaving water in those trails, and make sure that someone that is lost will find a gallon of water and will find a can of tuna to continue, And very often, the Samaritans, we found migrants in so much distress physically that they're done, they don't want to continue with the journey because their feet are blisters, they're bleeding, they're dehydrated, they're disoriented, they cannot longer go on that journey. So what we do is we just at the moment respect what they want to do and ask them, we help them. We give them water. Some of the volunteers are paramedics or nurses or some medical background. They triage right there to make sure that the person's blood pressure is not up to the sky and it's going to collapse. So all that is done in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and sometimes with 20 degrees or sometimes with 115 degrees. So it can go from one extreme to the other extreme. And, that's work has been done. Really, we chose donations from people who also care for these issues, and they are 23 years old, going to 24, going strong. The interesting thing to me is that most of the volunteers are white. They're older white people, retired professionals. And, sometimes I feel good because I'm already 64 and I'm like, oh, I'm the youngest one. But, it's just great to see that work that is done. So I have been volunteering with them for the past 13 years. But I tell you, in 2016, my daughter, my children who are growing now, and I decided to open our own organization. And it's a nonprofit organization based in Tucson, Arizona. And we are binational. So we do a lot of work across the border in our border towns. We create communities. We help asylum seekers that are waiting to cross, to present legally. We are waiting for, we're helping them to navigate the legal world by referring them to the appropriate channels. We provide humanitarian aid from a pair of socks to food, anything that they need, from piñatas at the parks and those, or at the shelters, breaking piñata for the kids that have not had any joy in their journey for the very long time. So those moments, are beautiful. So our organization is called Salva Visión. And it pretty much was established by the consulate in Tucson, Arizona, the Salvadorian consulate. I am from El Salvador. I came to this country when I was 19. And that's what this is my mission, because I came fleeing the civil war in my country in the 1980. And, I tried 2 times, with one time by myself with friends, and the second time with a smuggler. 2 times I was arrested and deported back to my country. I was young. I was only 19, but I was very scared of staying in my country because my next dream after high school was to become a social worker. So I was already enrolling at the university. And very soon, within a month or so after everything, broke out in El Salvador after the war, the government started really running up people my age or a little younger. And then people, they were not asking really nothing about you. If somebody would have said, hey, I think she or he is involved in something, they would have take you and disappeared you and killed you. So wow. I saw a lot of that in my community because it was a lot of profiling again, those very poor communities where you as in a place where you are pretty much invisible to the government or to any other higher society. You are more of a threat than a potential. So I thought I really in trouble because I was part of a youth group with my church, with a Catholic church, with the Maryknoll sisters. the Maryknoll congregation was in our communities helping us, to, I guess, do Sunday schools, youth groups, getting us out of trouble and keeping us in a good path. So I was part of this youth group, and I was the leader. I was the helper of the leader. We had a leader, and then Rene was his name. So Rene was one of the first young men that I saw getting killed in the arms of his grandmother. And, all that really led me to leave my country. But I tell you, I grew up happy. I grew up not knowing what was in the outside of my small community in El Salvador. I was poor. I was a child from a domestic violence family, but I found my childhood being content and happy with my friends, with my school, my teachers. And the last thing I thought in my life was to leave my mother or my siblings, But when a moment comes where you feel that it's either you stay and take that risk, what risks do you want to take? Do you want to take a risk to flee for your life and with the hope that you are going to be okay? Or you want to risk to stay and maybe you'll be dead, like the rest of your friends and so many people. I mean, this war, I'm sure a lot of the listeners know that lasted for 12 years. It was more than 75,000 people that got killed, murdered. And almost 1 million of us got displaced to different parts of the world, not only the United States. And as we all know, that the United States was a big financial part of this war. And it's very sad to me because, I found protection in here, but not many of my friends or the people that travel with me. So in 1980, in the summer, in July, we did a third try with the smugglers from El Salvador. And we traveled all the way to Sonora, Mexico, to the Lukeville port of entry in Oregon Pipe. And by then, it was no border walls. It was pretty much just barbed wire. So it was really easy just to, jump that little small barbed wire and start walking. The smuggler that from Mexico, they were guiding us, got lost the very first night. And it was 26 of us. So imagine in the beautiful, big, big desert where you don't know if you're coming or going, if you don't know your direction, with no appropriate shoes, not enough water. We only had 1 gallon of water. And it was 26 of us. And it was 3 sisters, a 12, a 14, and 16, unaccompanied minors. I was the friend during the journey in the bus that took us 7 days from El Salvador to the border. We became friends. We became a wonderful community, and we laugh and we say jokes and we sing and we dream of being safe, and we don't have to hide. We don't have to hear gunshots. It was beautiful. And these 3 sisters, mom has saved for years to bring them. And they would tell me that when in their town in El Salvador, it was devastating and they were killing even children already. So the horrible part, the story is that 5 days after we were lost, and we ran out of everything. We ran out of our water. We even ran out of our own pee to be able to drink. And 110 temperature, Even the ground was as hot as 120, or who knows. It just felt like hell. Is you couldn't find relief, in the ground and sitting up, or we put our clothes down, it would get hot. So at the end of 5 days that we were in a horrible journey and lost and not knowing where we were going, 13 people die around me. And what really gets me is the story of the three sisters. Everybody matters, and I feel for everybody, but the three sisters, their life was cut short, so fast. Just seeking safety and of course, they had that dream to get close to their mom, And it's been 43 years. And I tell you, every time I bring this story, it's very hard for me. So when people ask me, why do you do what you do? Because it's almost 40 years I've been doing this work after I was rescued. And I said, because I cannot ever see myself giving a second chance and just going on with life and pretend that nothing happened. This is an honor for the people, my friends, they could not make it. And for the hope of all the thousands and thousands of people in movement, people's moving all around the world, because it's chaotic. There's so much going on in this world, and people have to move, to seek safety. I was at the border wall providing some humanitarian aid last 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday. And I met almost people from 18 countries. 18.
Wow.
18. And this is not just young people that is coming to have a revolution. It's not just young people that is coming to be an army against anybody. This is mother and children, little ones. A mother all the way from Africa with her 2-year-old little boy, Mohammed. Beautiful little boy that I found. And we have to change our thinking or the way we are looking at these people. This is a humanitarian crisis. And really, I am not a political person. I am a humanitarian aid person. But I have to look at the window too. And I said, always and always, really, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are in. This is a brother, a sister, a human, a child, a man, a woman. They look just like you and me. We just are from a different country. But who knows if, God forbid, we someday we'll be in the same steps, in the same situation.
Right.
And we don't feel safe wherever we live. So, so this is why I do my work. I started getting involved with the sanctuary movement. The sanctuary movement was created in Tucson, Arizona. And we still, the co-founder, he's still involved. And he is incredible human being. He is my mentor. He is my brother. He is the one I look up to for this work. And he's gonna, when he leaves this earth, I don't know who will fill up his shoes. Because, he has always been present for our needs and the migration issues. So with Salva Visión and my organization, it's pretty much a family affair. And we do have wonderful volunteers too. None of us, get paid for the work we do. Is volunteer. Every donation we get, it goes straight to our people who needs the help at that moment. But we also do a lot of support to people who's already trying to navigate what the United States is, from enrolling the children in school, from getting them to medical appointments, legal system, which is so important for these people. The journey is pretty much the beginning for them when they are in the United States. And many of them get lost in the system. And not only to so much trauma, this journey brings trauma. I mean, you can tell in myself, it's been 43 years. I'm an older woman. I'm a 64 mother of 5 with 3 grandkids, with my life on and on. Already retired as a social worker because I did it here in this country, and my trauma, my story is still so much in my heart because it does not go away. You learn to live with that, and you learn to do good things with that if you choose to. And that's what my choice was. I wanted it to give back the opportunity of life. And I never had stopped, but it still hurts. And, I did not share my story for almost 30 years. I was quiet. I did not tell no one. People knew, and my children knew that their mother was rescued from a desert, but they did not know details. It's too painful. And, but in 2016, when I started listening, a raw narrative of who we are, and they put us again in this box, especially my country, that it was a shithole country and that we are no good. I said, you know what, Dora, you have a story. You better speak up. Enough to feeling sorry, right? You got to share. You got to do something about this. And I tell you, I have not stopped since I opened my mouth and I said, help me, Lord, I got to do this because I know who we are. I know for a fact that drugs do not come in those backpacks. Those backpacks, 99% or 100%, I had never found a backpack with drugs in the back of asylum seekers or migrants and children. And I know they come through a bigger area. So, it's a very complex situation, but it's very important to put a face to the story. It's very, very, very important to think of a migrant or asylum seeker, whatever name they want to give us. It's very important to put a potential in it. Just think the courage of these people coming in a journey of 3,000 miles away from home. I am sure they can finish your roof in your house with no fear. Right? So, I'm very grateful and thankful to be surrounded by people who love what I do, who really show up every day to do this volunteer work. It's a labor of love. That's how I call it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know that sharing that story is a big part of your work. And I do think it's so important that people get to hear that. I imagine that's important for different people in different ways, but important nonetheless that maybe people who have also experienced immigrating to the United States hear your story and have a kind of moment of recognition.
Right.
And feel a thankfulness that you're sharing a story that they've also lived in their own version. And then for people who have none of that experience, it's so powerful to hear what your lived experience was. I think imagination is really important. And by getting to hear your story, I think it helps people. Like, for example, I live in Indiana. Immigration is not right at my door, and so it could be easy to kind of feel distant from it or detached
Right.
from the reality or the presence of all of the suffering that's happening.
Mm.
But getting to hear stories like yours help people, I'll say like me, who don't share that experience, I think, to imagine better what that experience was like for you, and also to, like I was saying earlier, have a better understanding of that shared humanity that's there. You talk about all the people you've seen who are wanting to escape violence, who are coming to the United States because they want a better life for their children. There's a lot of themes that you've already talked about that are not just exclusive to people immigrating to the United States or immigrating anywhere, but are, those threads of connection, I think, is how I kind of am hearing that in your story, that can maybe help bring the shared humanity back to the forefront. Like I said, you were kind of getting at different stories that have been told about people who have immigrated to the United States, stories that I would say are based more in fear.
Right.
But that story completely changes when it's based in this acknowledgement of a shared humanity.
Right. Right. And it's understanding. For me, as a humanitarian aid volunteer, it is understanding that people, like you're saying, they are so far away from the media crisis, from the media area, the space where we see people every day. It is normal, I think. I mean, it is expected to be disconnected and not knowing the reality of what this is. So it's really easy to agree with what you see. It's really easy to buy what you see. It's really easy to feel fear. I mean, fear is a horrible feeling. And if it's ingrained in your brain and it's ingrained in your daily life, it is very, very scary. I agree with that. But with that, I think I invite your listeners, really, I do, to take a minute to look at the other part of the positive, look at the beauty of migration. It is a beautiful thing. It is migration is people in movement. That's all it is. We are looking for spaces where we can feel free. And all of us want to be free. Nobody, no one that I know in this life wants to be captured of anything. So I just believe that, think of them on monarch butterflies. The butterflies, beautiful. They go as they please. And it is their environment, it is their space, but they move from place to place, and that's what we do as humans. This is a humans race situation. This is not only a one country thing now. This is globally. And I tell you, I truly, honestly telling you, I saw 18 countries in one day, which to me was amazing. I love it. I don't speak none of those languages, but Spanish and English. But look, body language means so much that a smile doesn't need a translation. A hug does not need any other words of welcoming, and acceptance. It doesn't matter who you are and where you're from. So it's very important to really start looking also. To me, it's important. Yes, I agree. You have all the right to look at both sides. You have all the right to, feel disconnected, feel scared, feel that, oh, this is not really my thing. But you also might want to be a little bit more, knowledge of what this is. This is a phenomenon. This is happening all over the world. And yes, the United States is, because we're here, we see what we see. But if we move to the to the Mediterranean, we move to other countries, Europe, same thing is happening, but in here it affects us because we are here. And I just think that it is important to look at both sides and really humanize what this movement is. Humanize this moving. What is this people coming from? Why? Well, and I tell you, the United States is a country of immigrants. The United States is the most beautiful country because the richness of cultures that we bring. We bring our food, we bring our language, we bring our dances all together. I learn yours, you learn mine. My first friend after I was rescued in September already in 1980, I was already I already was enrolled in school, in a community college, learning English. And my first friend was from Afghanistan. My first friend, and Farhat was her name. She did not speak English. I didn't speak her language. And we became best friends. We a year later, we were graduating as a nursing assistants. Her and I, so this is the beauty. This is the beauty piece of immigration, I believe. You just had to really put a face to it in a story, millions of stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point to say that, your story is not everyone's story.
Yes.
But, many, many people can probably still see themselves in your story. And yeah, as you alluded to earlier, it is complicated. And as you've experienced your whole life, there's the ease and the joy existing right alongside the suffering and pain. Even before you immigrated, you spoke of your family life growing up, that there was so much joy, even though there were also hard circumstances.
Right.
I imagine that it does mean a lot for people to hear your story. It means a lot to me to hear your story. Like you said, it informs me. And I want to know, what does it mean for you to get to share your story?
As part of my mission, I think as sometimes it gets very hard. Sometimes are easier to share the story. But it is important for me that I do that to help again to humanize who we are. Because I am the migrant. I am that asylum seeker. I am the person that within half an hour, I would not be alive here telling my story. I wouldn't be just that number of someone in the desert, and crossing and trying to seek for that protection. So it is important for me to share that things happen for a reason in life. And it opens, I hope, it opens the heart, it opens the mind, it opens doors for conversation, it opens doors for understanding. And if it's a person who has fear of what's happening, that I totally acknowledge and validate, I hope that listening to a story like mine, it eases the fear. That it's just that it changed, that not all of us are coming to destroy this country or to hurt your family or to take your jobs. Really, look at me, 43 years in this country, and I contributed to this country. Now I have my growing children who are good citizens from this country because I was lucky to make it, So it is important. And I invite people because I know thousands and thousands of people have migrated, or their grandparents or their mother or their father, their ninos, their friends. I invite them, share those stories. remember for where you came from. I was talking to my husband this morning. My husband is like a sixth generation already, but he looks Mexican. He looks Hispanic. He's a Chicano. He hardly speaks Spanish because back in the day, he was not allowed to speak Spanish in school. But I tell him, nobody knows you are just like me, brown skin, black hair. Now I color my hair, but, So I said, we got to remember where we are from. We got to never forget that, thank goodness, somehow we're already in a place that is, we were able to make it. Their life, good or bad, has been good somehow for us. But we cannot forget who we are, where we're coming from. And if we have the opportunity to give a hand to a brother, a sister, a child, we should do that. We must do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dora, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, I want to pick your brain a little bit about what the future looks like, and what kind of, positive change we are hoping for. And maybe already you can speak to what kind of positive changes you have already seen in your 43 years of being here and the years you've done doing this work. What kind of positive change have you seen in any of those organizations you're involved with, or just in Tucson?
It is great. I can attest to the connections, the humanity, the love, the compassion that I see with so many volunteers. I am not alone doing this work. There is hundreds and hundreds of people who care. And that for me is compassion. And that for me is positive. That's what it keeps me going, that I am not by myself. I came to this country with nothing because I left the backpack I had was left behind in the desert. And I was received by a family in Tucson as a sponsor family that I lived with them for a whole year. And they became my family because I didn't see my real family after 6 years. So they became my family. And this is what the community is. I tell you, this country is capable of loving. We are capable, and this is who we are. We are a country of giving, a country of support and love, compassion, and justice. We need to keep seeking justice for what is right. And I think we are in the right path. We're not going to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dora, I so appreciate you sharing your story and your perspective and getting to have this conversation with you and getting to learn about the work you do in the organizations that you're a part of. I'd love to include links to all the work that you do so people can get involved and donate in ways that they can. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share about your experiences or your work?
I just want to thank you so much for the space, for letting me in and share our stories. And with the hope that if someone would like to volunteer or get connected, please send an email and we'll get you to work. It's a lot to do here.
Yes, lots to do.
Yes, to do. Yes. Thank you so much, Abbie.
Thank you, Dora. Okay, that is all for our conversation with Dora. At the end of each episode, I like to offer some questions to reflect on, which act as a next turn for us, so the conversation doesn't stop just because the episode does. Today, the questions I would have you think about are: how does hearing Dora's story shape your perception of immigration? And also, how can you seek out more stories that humanize those who migrate? You are welcome to reach out to me to share your reflections, as well as any of your own questions or ideas that have come up for you after listening to this conversation. You can do that through email, the website, or by commenting on Instagram and YouTube. Links to all of these places to connect with me will be in the show notes below. And the reason I invite you to share your reflections is to stay in dialogue. Other great ways to stay in dialogue are to follow the show wherever you listen, leave a rating and review, and most importantly, share episodes that have been meaningful to you with others in your life. I am supported by the CMM Institute for Personal and Social Evolution. This podcast is just one of many initiatives designed to create space for more conversations that move us toward those better social worlds we are always talking about. One other initiative I want to highlight is the Cosmo Activities website, which is now up and running, designed by yours truly. That's www.cosmoactivities.com. And you can find a whole host of social emotional resources there for free. So I'd invite you to check that out. You can also learn more about the CMM Institute and all their other initiatives at the links I've provided in the show notes. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being curious. And thank you for being a part of this story. I'm Abbie, and this has been Stories Lived, Stories Told.